Joseph. That's
Where's Joshua?
he was one of the.
All right, best of luck to both teams. Here's toss-up number 1. In a novella, a man from this family writes a letter of recommendation for a mysterious doctor who refuses to treat soldiers and eventually lives with Mei Mei. That member of this family, who refuses to let people within a 10-foot chalk circle around him, is foiled in a suicide attempt when a doctor puts an iodine marker on a part of his chest with no vital organs. A man from this family repeatedly remakes the same 25 goldfish and loses... Buendia is correct for 20.
What?
Your bonus is 1 second. I put in the wrong teams. It would help if I had the wrong team selected when I did this. Yeah.
Are you sure that's power?
Yeah, that was 20.
Okay. Let's do better on What the heck was goblins?
That was 20. And here's your bonus. Avcode is applied in a fiberglass honeycomb matrix to form these devices for 10 points each. Name these devices whose ablative type lifts the shock layer above the boundary layer. SpaceX spacecrafts use the phenolic impregnated carbon ablator, one of these devices.
Yeah, maybe like nose cone or heat shield. Heat shield. Maybe.
Sure.
Heat shield.
Heat shield is correct. Heat shields protect spacecraft during this part of a mission, which friction causes excessive heating as the spacecraft descends through the atmosphere. Re-entry is correct. Columbia was destroyed on re-entry because its heat shield was damaged by debris from one of these components. Some aircrafts have detachable drop examples of these components, exemplified by the central orange part of the Space Shuttle launch vehicle.
Fuel tank.
Fuel tanks is correct for 30. Here's toss-up 2. This film's final scene of men waving and throwing their hats is freeze-framed in a 2022 Radu Jude film that explores what happened in Romania after this film's conclusion. A classic scene from this film is parodied in a sequence involving a vacuum cleaner in Terry Gilliam's Brazil. A still of a weeping nurse from this film inspired a Francis Bacon painting. This film was commissioned on the success...
Battleship Potemkin?
Battleship Potemkin is correct for 20. Here's your bonus. A Vachel Lindsay poem about this figure imagines him laying in a 4-poster bed outside Fort Wayne with curtains made of August rains. For 10 points each, name is folk hero that Michael Pollan has linked to alcohol because of his opposition to grafting. This figure is frequently depicted with a tin pot.
Oh, Johnny Appleseed.
Oh, yeah.
Johnny Appleseed.
Johnny Appleseed is correct. In addition to apples, Appleseed distributed copies of this philosopher's writings. This mystic's 1734 tract philosophical and logical works greatly influenced a group called the New Church.
I think is it Swedenborg? Swedenborg?
Yeah, Swedenborg is correct. In the 1920s, the FBI tore down Appleseed's Indiana orchard to prevent the distilling of hard cider as part of this ban on alcohol that began with the 18th Amendment.
Prohibition.
Prohibition's correct for 30. Here's toss-up 3. Conventionally, the first biosensor is one of these devices invented by Leland Clark to measure dissolved oxygen. 3 of these devices are used to detect trace heavy metals in an experiment that sweeps between plating and stripping them. Concentrated potassium chloride is used to store a glass pen-shaped type...
Electrode.
Electrode is correct for 20. Your bonus. This composer used his namesake rhythm of 2 quarter notes followed by 3 quarter note triplets in many of his works. For 10 points each, he was an Austrian composer whose namesake problem refers to the contrasting editions of many of his symphonies, such as the Romantic. The answer?
Schumann.
This is Bruckner. Upon hearing about the death of Wagner, Bruckner apocryphally added a clash played by this instrument to his 7th symphony to represent his grief. In a drum kit, this instrument comes in crash and ride types.
Symbol.
Symbols are correct. As he was unable to finish his 9th symphony, Bruckner suggested using his setting of this Latin hymn as the final movement. The Eurovision opening theme is the prelude from Charpentier's setting of this hymn.
Yeah, sure.
Dies Irae?
No, it is Te Deum. 10 on the bonus, here's toss-up 4. A forensic analysis of Terry Stroob's audio recordings of this event commissioned by the Plain Dealer disputed that its pivotal 13 seconds were spontaneous. Long Island native Jeffrey Glenn Miller was honored following this event by...
Kent State.
The Kent State Massacre is correct for 20. Here's your bonus. This term was used to denote the slaves who became the ancestors of India's city people for 10 points each. Give this Arabic word that Muslim geographers used to name the Swahili coast. This word also names the slaves from that region who participated in a massive rebellion of Abbasid marsh drainers in 869 CE.
Named after the coast. I don't know.
The answer?
Zanzibar.
It's Zanj. Zanj was an umbrella term for speakers of Swahili and other languages from this family. This language family's speakers spread ironworking across Central Africa in an ancient expansion. Bantu is correct. Arab traders in the Sea of Zanj often landed on this island nearby Pemba. This island and its namesake archipelago joined with mainland Tanganyika to form Tanzania.
Zanzibar.
Zanzibar is correct for 20. Here's toss-up 5. Pyotr Tchaikovsky dedicated a work titled for scherzo in this genre to his lover, Josef Kotek, and also dedicated a different work in this genre, the last in his 6 pieces, to Emma Genton. After the introduction to a work in this genre, 2 French horns play the rising phrase D, D, F sharp, A, long A, before the flutes respond with 2 A's down to 2 F sharps. Maurice Ravel and Franz Schubert both composed a set of noble and sentimental waltz is correct for 10. Your bonus. 2 answers required. One of these characters awakes to find the other's arm thrown over him in the most loving and affectionate manner as if he were that character's wife. For 10 points each, name these 2 characters who first meet after one of them decides that a bench is too uncomfortable to sleep on. One of these characters obliges the other's request to stop smoking his pipe in bed because he ain't insured.
What? I have no idea. Maybe it's like, I don't know, Vladimir.
Any answer?
Vladimir and Estragon.
I know it's Ishmael and Queequeg. This author included the homoerotic symbolism of Ishmael and Queequeg sharing a marriage bed in the opening chapters of his novel, Moby Dick.
Melville.
Melville's correct. This other Melville character is described as a fine specimen who could have posed for a statue of Adam before the fall. Captain Veer orders his character's execution after he murders John Claggart, the latter of whom accused him of mutiny.
Billy Budd.
Billy Budd is correct for 20 on the bonus. Here's toss-up 6. Americans of this ethnicity benefited from Pat McCarran's sheepherder laws. A city in these people's homeland was transformed by a 1997 project that now names an effect for turning around any industrial city with postmodern architecture. These
Like Basque.
Yeah.
Nice.
Basques are it for 20 points. Your bonus. In 2019, Dorothy Mahone discovered that a large hat and expensive wallpaper in a painting of this couple was painted over after one of them was executed for being a tax collector. For 10 points each, name is married couple who appear seated with various glass objects on top of a red tablecloth to the right in a Jacques-Louis David painting.
Wait. Racamier, that's not right.
The answer?
Racamier.
These are the Lavoisiers.
I didn't know
This
that.
artist hid the initial to his first name in the belly button of a corpse whose arm is being dissected in another scientifically inspired painting, The Anatomy Lesson. This Dutch artist also painted The Night Watch. Rembrandt is correct. An astrolabe and quadrant in this painting's upper half symbolizes heavenly bodies, in contrast with a distorted object in its lower half based on Jean de Tinteville's motto, Memento Mori.
Ambassadors.
The Ambassadors is correct for 20. Here's toss-up 7. They're not societies, but these groups were first systematically defined in a 1928 essay by Karl Mannheim that ties their development to the tempo of change. William Strauss and Neil Howe devised a theory of these groups in which 4 of them represent a cyclical saculum. The imprint hypothesis highlights the role of Generations is correct for 20.
How do you know that?
Your bonus. Answer the line about violence following demographic changes for 10 points each. After this Commonwealth nation elected its first leader of Indian heritage, Mahendra Chaudhary, a nativist faction in this country's military staged a coup led by George Speight in 2000.
Commonwealth.
Need an answer?
Barbados.
It's Fiji. An order named for this color in Northern Ireland forged alliances with paramilitary groups, partly out of fear of being outbred by the country's Catholics. This color names a house of King William III.
Orange.
Orange is correct. This man's successor, Daniel Arap Moi, promoted Kalenjin over Luo and Kikuyu officers, prompting a coup. This politician's son was elected president in 2013.
Kenyatta.
What was it directed?
Kenyatta.
Prompt.
Jomo Kenyatta.
That is correct. Jomo Kenyatta for 20. Here's toss-up 8. The Frenet-Serret formulas calculate derivatives taken with respect to this quantity. Elliptic integrals were developed to calculate this quantity for
Arc length.
arc length is correct. Great buzz. That's 20. Here's your bonus. These devices are often contrasted with devices that use semiconductors instead of spinning magnetic disks for 10 points each. Name these devices whose use of rapidly rotating platters is gradually being superseded as the dominant form of non-volatile data storage.
Hard drives.
Okay.
Hard drives?
Hard drives are it. This data storage virtualization technology can provide redundancy for local storage by combining multiple HDDs into a virtual logical unit. Levels of this technology are numbered 0 through 6, with 0 providing stripping but no redundancy or error correction.
Give me a sec. RAID.
RAID is correct. Rather than storing data on local servers, many software companies rely on S3 cloud storage from AWS, the web services subsidiary of this company.
Good job.
Amazon.
Amazon is correct for 30. Here's toss-up 9. This play's author defended its lack of footlights in an essay that cites its protagonist as having a weak and degenerate brain. This play's author described his protagonist as a man-hating half-woman in a Darwinism-inspired literary manifesto published as this play's preface.
Pygmalion.
No. Confounding. I'll keep reading. In this play, which is set on Midsummer's Eve, a pair of boots left on the stage represent his protagonist's absent father, the Count. While planning a move to Lake Como to start a hotel, this play's protagonist allows the decapitation of her pet canary.
Miss Julie.
Miss Julie is correct for 10. Here's your bonus. One of these people compiled rules for the board game Rhythmomakia, in which you arrange your pieces in a geometric progression to win. For 10 points each, name these people who produced illuminated manuscripts. They were led by abbots.
Abbots? Wait, yeah, monks.
Monks is correct. The monk Eadfrith compiled a notable illuminated gospel book in this monastery on an island off the coast of Northumberland. This monastery was raided by the Vikings in 793 CE.
Lindisfarne?
Lindisfarne is correct. Monks copied and illuminated manuscripts in these rooms. Scribes working in one of these rooms at Corby developed a standardized system called Carolingian minuscule.
Bro, rooms? These are parlors. Parlors, sure. Parlors.
It is a scriptorium.
Okay.
20 on the bonus. Here's toss-up 10, after which we'll have half. Schall's theorem gives that every rigid body displacement is equivalent to a displacement named for these devices. Robert Ball employed six-dimensional vectors named for these devices in his framework of their mechanics. The Burgers vector is parallel to the...
Like crystal lattices.
No. Can we stop that? Is that something that's in the walls? Okay. I will... The ghosts of Hyatt Regency past. I will continue reading. The Burgers vector is parallel to the dislocation line of a type of crystal dislocation named for these devices. These devices name a line that is simultaneously a body's axis of rotation and path of translational motion. The movement of these devices is restricted by self-locking. 2 pi times radius over length gives the ideal mechanical advantage of these devices. These devices consist of an inclined plane wrapped around a cylinder. For 10 points, these simple machines that can be driven by drills. Yes. Screw is correct for 10. Here's your bonus. In one story, the chief of Puna refuses to yield an object used for this activity to a goddess disguised as a woman, which leads to that goddess chasing him into the sea. For 10 points each, name this activity that involves a narrow object made out of papa or lumber. A snow goddess's competition with her rival at this activity led to the creation of Laupa Hoaeoe.
Surfing.
Oh no, it's sledding. Oh, I could take that. My apologies. Sledding or surfing. That sled race occurred between the snow goddess Poliahu and this goddess who lives in a crater in Kilauea. This goddess of fire and volcanoes may also appear as a white dog.
Pele?
Pele is correct. Pele is a goddess of this native... Pele is a goddess in the native religion of this island group, whose other deities include Laka, the goddess of the hula dance, and the trickster god Maui.
Hawaii.
Hawaii is correct. 30 on the bonus, and at half I have a score that's tie game. 200. Great game. 11. It is description acceptable. Prior to this event, the future Duchess of Albemarle had a portentous dream about a dung heap. Following this event, Edward Whaley fled to New Haven Colony because he was not protected by the Indemnity and Oblivion Act. Oak Apple Day is celebrated on the anniversary of this event.
Like the restoration of Charles II.
Yes,
Good.
that is it for 20.
Good buzz.
Here's your bonus. Following a trip to Egypt, this author obsessed over the dancer Kuchuk Hanem, whom he described as no more than a machine. For 10 points each, he was a French author who began writing Madame Bovary shortly after returning from Egypt.
Flaubert.
Flaubert's fixation with Kuchuk Hanem is criticized in his Edward Said book, which is touted for a Western artistic style that essentializes aspects of Eastern culture.
Orientalism.
Orientalism is correct. Said claims that Kuchuk Hanem is the archetype for the title Carthaginian priestess of this Flaubert novel. Said argued that sentiments are repressed entirely in this novel's depiction of Matho's ceremonial death.
Total guess.
What was
Salambo. Salambo.
Salambo's in for 30. Here's toss-up 12. The story of Stanjan recounts how emissaries of this religion poured sugar into a glass of milk to convince Jadi Rana to welcome them. Muhammad Jinnah's wife, Rudi Petit, was from a wealthy family of this religion, whose members formed surnames like Soda Waterwala and Rumwala from the drinks they sold. A crisis caused by the drug diclofenac has threatened this religion's use of hilltop dakmas in Mumbai. This religion's practitioners in India are called Parsis, and
Is it Zoroastrianism?
Zoroastrianism is correct for 10. Your bonus. This property of a polycrystalline material is increased by applying strain at cold temperatures to introduce defects. Analogously, it decreases when steel is tempered. For 10 points each, name this property, which is nebulously quantified using the Mohs scale.
Hardness.
Hardness is correct. Cold annealing increases hardness but decreases this measurement of a metal's plasticity. Materials that have this property are not brittle and can be easily drawn out in one dimension by rearranging their defects.
No, that's like with a making a wire.
Need an answer?
Malleable.
No, it is ductile or ductility.
God, I'm sorry.
Work hardening creates defects at the boundary between these regions of a polycrystalline material. The size of these internally ordered regions determines the strength of an alloy.
Like, is it the spots between
Need an answer?
the gaps?
No, it's the grain. 10 on the bonus. Here's toss-up 13. One poem speaker states that an author of this surname gave me eyes, gave me ears, and humble cares and delicate fears. An author of this surname, who wrote about some objects so gay, ever glancing, ever changing in her Grassmere journal, is addressed as a dear, dear sister in a poem about steep woods and lofty cliffs, which impress thoughts of more deep seclusion. A poet of the surname notes that 5 summers with the length of 5 long winters have passed at the beginning of a poem set on the River Wye. That Wordsworth is correct for 10. Here's your bonus. The act of relief in this colony mandated that married women suspected of treason could receive 20 lashes. For 10 points each, name this colony where Christina Campbell's Tavern was the favorite seafood spot of native son George Washington.
Colony.
Colony.
Virginia. Is he from Virginia?
Virginia.
Virginia.
Virginia is correct. The act of relief targeted people like Lydia Chessman, who fomented this uprising which indentured servants and slaves rose up and torched Jamestown in 1676.
Yeah.
Bacon's Rebellion.
Bacon's Rebellion is correct. Williamsburg was home to a woman of this profession named Catherine Blakely. In the early 20th century, increasingly strict registration and health laws reduced the granny type of this job.
Granny. Nurse.
That's what I was trying.
Nurse.
I will prompt.
Maybe like a midwife.
Wet nurse.
No, it's a midwife.
Oh my God.
20 on the bonus. Here's toss-up 14. Description acceptable. The river Van was created from this event, in which the boulder Gyal and the stone Titvati was used. Initial
Like the binding of Fenrir.
binding of
What?
Fenrir is correct for 20. Here's your bonus. Answer the following about the Macedonian author Gotze Smilevsky for 10 points each. Smilevsky wrote a novel in which Adolfina Freud experiences the forgetting after dying at one of these places. Elie Wiesel is liberated from one of these places in the novella Night.
Concentration camp.
Concentration camp is correct. In a novel titled The Return of Words, Smilevsky attempts to find letters written by this abbess instead of invented grease paint, made up by her correspondent, whose castration was ordered by Fulbert.
I didn't understand that at all. Maybe it's like a Heloise.
Eloise is correct.
Oh, what?
A
Okay.
Smilevsky short story describes the death of Hermann Bruch, an author from this modern-day country. An author from this country, Thomas Bernhardt, marked the literary coffee houses of its capital.
Was it Austria?
I think it's Switzerland. Oh. Oh wait, yeah, that sounds right.
Austria.
Austria is correct for 30. Timeout? Timeout before... Of luck, here's toss-up 15. This city legendarily adopted the leopard as its symbol after a leopard walked around in this city before departing through the mountains. This city's historical site of Afrasiab contains murals depicting Varkuman, a Sogdian king. The Zij is Sultani star catalog.
Samarkand.
Say again?
Samarkand.
Samarkand is correct for 20. Here's your bonus. Upon hearing a warning from Jonah, king of the city instructs its inhabitants to not eat or drink and covers himself with sackcloth for 10 points each. Name the city which God instructs Jonah to go to so he can preach against its wicked inhabitants.
Yeah.
Instead, Jonah flees from God and goes to Tarshish.
Nineveh.
Nineveh is correct. On his way to Tarshish, Jonah is thrown overboard by his shipmates and spends 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of this kind of creature.
Whale,
Yeah.
fish. Wait.
Fish.
Fish.
Fish is correct. God justifies his concern for the people of Nineveh to Jonah by stating that they cannot tell the difference between these two things.
Their left hand and their right.
Yeah.
Their left and their right hand is correct.
Nice.
That's 30 on the bonus. Here's toss-up 16. On a date, a character in this novel plays a record to prove that he is a disc jockey you probably must have heard of, named Lenny Shepard. After a blind date gone wrong in this novel, a character throws her new wardrobe off the roof of a hotel. Some characters in this novel are sent a copy of the 30 best short stories of the year after they all get food poisoning from crab.
Bell jar.
Say again?
Bell jar.
The bell jar is correct for 10. Your bonus. Alex Clearemont posited a radical thesis of this process to explain how a 44-year-old Frenchman lived normally despite losing 90% of his brain to hydrocephalus. For 10 points each, name his ability of neurons and neural networks to reorganize or grow in response to stimuli. Plasticity is correct. Cortical remapping through neuroplasticity is a possible explanation for this condition that V.S. Ramachandran introduced a mirror box to treat.
Oh, phantom limb.
Phantom limb.
Phantom limb.
Phantom limb syndrome is correct. In children of this condition, touch is mapped to the V1 area of the occipital lobe, which may help in the reading of Braille.
160, right?
What did you ask?
See an answer?
Blindness.
Blindness is correct for 30.
160.
Here's toss-up 17. Although this artist was once credited with painting the coronation altarpiece for the Baroncelli Chapel, most scholars now ascribe the altarpiece to his godson, Taddeo Gaddi. For one commission, this artist lined the lower register of a chapel with monochrome depictions of 7 virtues and vices.
Giotto.
Giotto is correct for 20. Great buzz. Here's your bonus. This musician formed a group called Dinner Party with Terrace Martin, Robert Glasper, and Ninth Wonder in 2020. For 10 points each, name this musician who wrote the 6-movement suite Harmony of Difference to explore counterpoint. This jazz saxophonist made an album in 2015 called The Epic.
It's the guy who was on Butterfly. Washington.
Yeah, that's it. Acquiring the disc for Kamasi Washington's EP, The Choice, requires cutting through the packaging on his album titled Heaven and This Place. Maurice White co-founded a jazz and funk-inspired band named for this place, Wind and Fire.
Earth.
Earth is correct. Track 6 of Kamasi Washington's The Epic is The Rhythm Changes, whose title indicates its chords come from the 32-bar form of a song by this composer with lyrics by his brother called I Got Rhythm.
I got rhythm. Gershwin.
Gershwin is correct. 30 on the bonus. Here's toss-up 18. The first ever film of this place was made after Bill McKinnon's racist killing of a man near a knee-shaped waterhole. Azaria Chamberlain, an infant killed while visiting this place in 1980, inspired a line shouted by a
Like Australia.
I will prompt.
Oh no. Uluru.
Yes, for 20. Great buzz. Your bonus. MSCI, a rating agency for this type of investment, mandates that companies follow the standards of the Sustainability Accounting Standards Board. For 10 points each, name is a conscious approach to investing and running companies known by a 3-letter acronym. Ratings in this approach punish high pollution but reward strong community involvement.
Anyone?
Karuna Index.
Oh no, this is ESG. Wirecard, a financial firm based in this country and listed on its DAX index, notoriously received very high ESG governance scores before the 2019 exposure of an accounting fraud.
Germany.
Germany's correct. This governor prohibited state pension funds from factoring in social, political, or ideological interests into investments. This governor of Florida has feuded with Disney over a bill nicknamed Don't Say Gay. DeSantis is correct for 20. Timeout.
Don't cheat.
Timeout going into 19 with the score of
I mean, those were really good ones.
We call them timeouts for experiment. They really, really were.
A philosopher's commentary on works in this language inspired the rule that class sizes should not exceed 40 students. The author of Phaedon was part of an 18th century enlightenment named for this language's word for education. A treatise in this language's script compares assigning properties to the divine to talking about winged...
Hebrew?
Hebrew is... Hebrew is correct for 20 points. Here's your bonus. And something about ways that cells propagate signals faster than molecular diffusion for 10 points each. In neurons, slow chemical signals are converted into fast electrical currents to propel down these long myelin-insulated wires that synapse with dendrites.
Axon? No, wait.
Yes. To amplify and accelerate signal transduction, cells cascade protein phosphorylation by using this compound as a high-energy phosphate donor. G proteins hydrolyze this compound in molecular switches.
GTP. Yeah, okay.
Visit meaningwithoutform.com. Okay, go.
GTP.
GTP is correct. These proteins increase the diffusion rate by co-localizing enzymes in a pathway to a smaller part of the cell. Huntingtin acts as one of these proteins for DNA repair.
Dude, I have no
Think I
clue.
know.
I have absolutely no idea.
Gerhard.
Need an answer?
Enzymes.
No, these are scaffolds. 20 in the bonus. Here's toss-up 20. These compounds activate the most common inducible degron in eukaryotes. Charles Darwin and his son Francis inadvertently postulated the existence of these compounds.
Like, auxins.
Auxins is correct for 20. Your bonus. A short story by this author ends with Billy Weaver drinking tea that tasted faintly of bitter almonds, implying that the title character has been killing and taxiderming attractive young men. For 10 points each, name is author of macabre short stories like The Landlady and Skin. This author's dark humor is better known from his children's books like Matilda and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Doll is correct. In a doll short story in a doll short story named for one of these objects, a woman uses one of these objects to kill her husband after he leaves her, then tricks police into destroying the evidence.
The turkey leg. I don't know what it is. Shit, and then they eat it.
Need an answer?
Like a leg.
I will prompt.
What's the animal? Turkey? Maybe? Turkey?
No, it's lamb.
Ah.
Doll's short story, A Piece of Cake, fictionalizes his time in this occupation. Like Doll, the protagonist of The English Patient with his job ends up stranded in the desert.
Because there's a patient. Doctor?
Oh no, he's a pilot.
Oh, I didn't know that.
10 of the bonus, and that's game. Final score.